Welcome to this Purple Mash webinar, Get Writing for National Poetry Day 2022. The 7th of October 2022 is National Poetry Day, and we've just launched our poetry writing competition. In this webinar, we'll explore how you can use Purple Mash to develop poetry writing in your class. We'll look at the Purple Mash poetry competition and how you can get involved, and how your children can get creative and develop their ideas in their poems, and how they can share and publish their poems. Since 1994, National Poetry Day has engaged millions of people around the UK with poetry through a range of live events and web-based activities. Each year, the day is given a new theme in order to highlight particular poets and styles of poetry. This year, National Poetry Day's theme is the environment. The National Poetry Day website has a range of resources for schools, including toolkits and lesson plans and activities for Key Stage 1 and 2 that are free to download and are all related to the theme of this year. There are also a range of resources in Purple Mash that schools can use to celebrate on National Poetry Day and throughout the year. We have also just launched our first National Poetry Day competition, which will run from September 28th to October the 31st. The purpose of the competition is to encourage your primary age children to write poems around the theme of the environment. We have created a range of templates that children can use to create their poems, including My Favourite Environment poem, Caring for the Environment poem, and a climate change poem. Let's have a look now at how we get to these resources. On the home page in Purple Mash, if you scroll down in the featured panel, you will see the link here to the poetry competition. This will give you an overview of what the competition entails. The competition is aimed at children from age 5 to 11. And what we're asking schools to do is to submit up to 3 entries for the competition. There are 3 categories. We're asking schools to submit 1 entry per school for each of these categories, for under 6s, under 9s and under 12s. To enter the competition, you can submit your poems by email, competitions@twosimple.com. The important dates for the competition are also listed here, and the prizes that your school and the pupil themselves can win. Let's have a look at the resources that we've made available to schools. If you're interested in exploring the lives and the poetry of these famous poets, you can click into here. Here are some resources around William Blake, one of my favourite poets. Why not explore his artwork in more detail? You can read through some of his poems here on this slideshow. Or you could have a go at one of these developing tray activities, which is a cloze activity that you can play with your whole class, seeing if the children can predict what the words are, the letters that are missing. This is lots of fun to play on the big screen as a whole class, or children can play it independently or with the partner. Let's scroll down now and have a look at the Serial Mash poetry. This is our collection of poetry in Serial Mash that you can use to explore the concept of poetry. Let's have a look at one of these ones. Let's have a look at Wobbly Teeth by Singleton. And I'm going to read that. And I'm going to use the audio player at the bottom here to read this out loud.
3 little baby teeth, standing in a row, wibble wobble, wiggling to and fro.
Let's go back and have a look at one of the other poems. Let's have a look at The Fly by Walter De La Mer.
How large unto the tiny fly must little things appear, a rosebud like a feather bed, its prickle like a spear.
Some lovely ideas to get your children listening to poetry, hearing the rhyming syntax and the rhythm of poetry as well. A lovely opportunity to explore a collection of poems from ages 5 to 11. Now underneath here we have some templates that your children can use to actually start creating their own poems. Let's have a look at some of these templates. Let's go into this one, My Favourite Environment poem. Now with these writing templates, as a teacher, I'm currently in teacher view. If I switch it to pupil view, you'll see what the children can do in this template. They can add an image at the top here. I click on that, I'll get this choose image selection at the bottom here, and I'm going to choose an image which would be my favourite environment. Let's have a look. I'm going to use this one here. Select an image, zoom into it, and I'm going to write about coral reefs. Now there's some prompts for the writing on the left hand side that I can use as well, which will give me some questions to prompt me with the writing. What can I see? What can I feel? What can I smell? What can I hear? Etc. And then I need to think about what kind of poem I want to write. Am I going to write a haiku or an acrostic? Is my poem going to rhyme? How many lines will my poem have? So then I can begin my writing. Here's my haiku that I wrote about a coral reef. Now, when children have created something amazing, they've written their poem, whichever one of the templates they want to choose, you could perhaps create a class or a whole school display board where the children can share their poems. And then perhaps you could vote as a whole school which poems are the ones you're going to use to submit to the National Poetry Day competition. So I'm now in Purple Mash as a pupil, and here is the poem that I've written. I'm going to use my drop down menu and show you what this looks like from a child's point of view and how they can share it to a display board. If I click the share button here, these are the 4 sharing options that your children will have. You could perhaps create a class blog about your poems, or I'm going to use this one at the bottom here, which is probably the simplest way to share their work, to select and pin it onto a display board. So here are the 2 possible display boards that the class teacher has created, and the child can decide which of these to share their poem to. So I'm going to select this one, Year 4 Poetry, and click OK. That work has now been added to the display board, and the class teacher can approve that work so that other children can read my poem. Let's come out of here, and I'm going to go back to being the class teacher. I'm going to go up to the display board now, or I can look at my alerts. So if I click on my alerts, you'll see a piece of work has been shared to that display board called Year 4 Poetry. And I could go to the display board from my alerts to approve the work, or I could go up here to my sharing area, click on the sharing tab, go down to the display board that I want to approve. So on this display board, we currently have one piece of work that's already been approved. If I click on the edit button at the top right there, and go down to the unapproved items, you'll see this piece of work has not yet been approved. And I can select that and click the Approve Selected Item checkbox at the top here. If you've got multiple pieces of work on the display board, you can use the Shift key on your keyboard and select them all and then approve them all at once. You'll now see this display board has got 2 pieces of poetry on it. As a teacher, in the sharing area here, if you want to create a display board for your class poems, click on this settings cog at the top right here, and then you can add a new display board by clicking on this green plus. Select an icon for your display board, and at the bottom you decide which class can see that display board. So I'm going to select this for class 4. You'll now see there is this Year 5 poetry display board that Year 5 can now share their work to. For further guidance on how to create a display board, in the display board area here as a teacher, you'll see the video guide at the top here.
I'm going to show you how to create a display board,
which will explain all of the features of how to create a display board, how children can add work to that display board, and how you as a teacher can approve that work, and how, if you want to, you can share your display board outside of Purple Mash, perhaps by embedding it onto your school website. Some of these templates here in the National Poetry Day section have been specifically created for this year's event. However, many of these are also available in the poetry section in English. If I click on the homepage here, back to Purple Mash, go down to the subject areas and click inside English. If I scroll down a little bit, there is this section here on poetry. All of these poetry templates are available to you and your children throughout the year. The templates here specific for National Poetry Day include a kennings poem, a haiku, a cinquain, an acrostic poem, lots of different ideas. And inside these, on the Think About option on the left-hand side, it will clearly explain what a cinquain is and how I write a cinquain line by line. So here is my mini beast cinquain. Now you'll see I've put some images in the top there, and I've written it exactly according to the instructions for line 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. I've edited the background settings at the bottom here. So if I click on this background settings button, I have selected an image, one of our background images, and I chose that one there. And then I decided how opaque I wanted that background image to be. And there we are. My mini beast cinquain is all ready to be shared to the display board using this option here. And I'm going to put that on the Year 5 poetry display board. So when the system recognises that you are a teacher, by default, it will be set as approved. So there's no need to approve work that's been shared to a display board as a teacher. Only the work that's shared as a pupil will need to be approved by the class teacher. We hope this gives you some fantastic ideas to stimulate your children's poetic inclinations. We are very excited to read some of the poems that your children submit to our Poetry Day competition. And also, you can get your children writing poems throughout the year. Have fun!